Okay, now I'm going to look at your intro designs, your week 2 assignments. Many of you sent me a publisher document, and I'm not going to take points off for that, but I wanted to make sure you realize why it's important to send a .jpg or JPEG file instead of a native publisher file. It's because you may use a font that you have installed on your system that I don't have installed on my system. Fonts, not universally, but very often are system-based or computer-based. It has to be on your computer. Fonts are files, very often TrueType files that are installed on your system, and if you send a document that uses one of those fonts, and if I don't have it, that's going to create problems. And usually you get warnings. In this case, what you're looking at is a warning when I try to open up the publisher file that the font AR Berkeley and Open Dyslexic I do not have in my system. Okay, and whenever I see that, I try to go on to a free font download site and see if I can download it. And I was able to for a couple of you, but there's others where I couldn't find the font. So usually what happens is the system automatically converts to what it thinks is the closest font, and very often that can mean it looks radically different than you intended. And so for that purpose, it's really important that you export a JPEG when I tell you to export a JPEG, or a PDF, okay, and not necessarily the raw publisher file. Okay, I'm having an issue currently with my publisher, which is a publisher 2013. I just installed Windows 10 and I misplaced my product keys, so I still have the system installed and a publisher installed on my computer, but it's not letting me do any editing until I can enter that product key. So what I had to do in the case of you students who sent me a raw publisher file, I had to open it up and just do a screen capture and then save it out from Photoshop as a JPEG. And so I apologize. On some of these previews you may see like a thin blue margin line around the outside. In this case you can see where that is. That's not intended to be there. It's just because I had to do a screen capture in Publisher. Okay, but so I guess that's in the short term anyways, until I get that product key thing figured out. Please, it's another reason to send me a JPEG or a PDF, depending on what I'm asking for, in lieu of a native publisher file. Okay, go over the end of the intro video again, and I think I do show how to. There's a couple different ways to save a JPEG from Publisher. You can either do an export, change file type, or just do a simple save as and use a drop-down menu and then select JPEG, JPG. Okay, so anyways, this first one, I'm going to read these and just talk about the designs briefly. And I'm probably going to mispronounce many of your names. There's some tough names this semester, so I'll try my best, but if I butcher some of your names, I think you can please forgive me. My name is Daniel Wk4, and I am in the marketing program here at MATC. I have very little experience with graphic design. This class will be my first real attempt in anything like this, so I'm a bit nervous, but also excited to learn. My passion in life is anything arts, theater, film related. I'm a huge film buff and will see any show that I can. I'm very into Broadway, especially musicals, and I love using social media to keep up with all of the happenings in the Broadway world. I also love animals and currently work at a dog daycare, although my ultimate career goal is to work in the area of arts, theater, marketing. I'm looking forward to getting a marketing internship this year and getting some real-world experience in this field. Alright, cool, very nicely written, and there's no hyphens, so you figured out how to stop automatic hyphenation in Publisher. That was very good. Nice job there. And oh, an aside one more time. Remember too that I'm looking at these on the screen, but moving forward very quickly I'm going to start having you do prints and sending in pictures of your prints as well as the native as well as a digital file, because it's really important to, when you're analyzing someone's work or your own work, is to look at it how it was meant to be seen. If it was meant to be printed, you should look at it that way, but for now we're just this is just a screen view. Okay, I like how the paragraphs are spaced. It looks very professional. They almost bump up against the right margin. I probably would have made it bump up or touch the right margin in this case. You've got the theater mask and your photo almost touching. I would just, if you're going to get that close to a margin, and this is the margin that you had chose for your file, you might as well just get it right up there and touch it so that you know it's even all the way around. That's an alignment issue. Good job in repeating blue. You've got blue in the headline, subhead, body copy, and it looks like the drop shadow on the picture, the effect, it looks like it's a gray blue, and even the gray in the background gradient almost has a little bit of cool to it. So I think that's a good use of repetition. And I like how you also brought in orange colors in the masks, the theater mask symbols. You brought that sort of flesh-colored orange color into the mask that's in where your portrait is, your skin color. They're not exactly the same, but they relate in a way, which is repeating something in the headline and the main. Well, not the headline. In this case, you get two graphics instead of just one. But you made sure that you tried to unify those two. You could have probably made the portrait bigger. If you can imagine scaling the picture from the upper right corner big enough where the top of the photo is behind those two masks, or and you could have made the mask slightly bigger to fit right above your head like that. And then you could have used the crop to make the right hand of the picture come in a little bit, close to your body, and that would give you enough room for the body copy. And you could even make the body copy a little smaller if you had to, and nudge it over to the margin. And that way, instead of having two competing overall graphic devices, you have one that's even more unified. You're associating that picture of that symbol of theater with you, and that's an important idea that you're trying to express anyways. So by just bringing it into the picture, overlapping onto the top of the picture right above your head, you're using repetition to express something about yourself. You're repeating a symbol into your picture. Okay. I probably would have brought that orange color into the headline as well. You could have left marketing student blue, but you got a blue color in your name, and I would have probably brought that orange color, which repeats the mask symbols, your skin, something in the picture, which is you, and then into your name, which is you. So just be thinking about repetition to unify elements, okay? But the headline and subhead are nicely centered. I would have probably made the outline on the marketing student text thinner. It looks a little thick, makes the text almost hard to read. It just makes it look too close together. It just interferes with giving it sort of a unified. I guess it stops my eyes on the marketing student text more than it should. And so, in other words, you don't want to emphasize what you don't want to emphasize. Okay, it should have more flow. It should be a little easier to read. And I just think, it's got the same width on the outline as the headline text, but the font is a lot smaller. So as you're making text smaller and smaller, if you're doing the same outline, make sure that the outline gets thinner and thinner to account for the different size. Okay. One more thing, a couple things about the text, and this isn't a rule necessarily, but it relates to standards where I work and some general standards. You did two spaces after each sentence, and honestly, you don't have to do that anymore. The reason that used to be a standard is in the typewriter days, there was no computer program to account for that space, so you did a two space to sort of make it easier to read, that it was clear that it was a new sentence. But now with most interfaces, fonts, they're programmed to automatically increase that space slightly after a period. And so because if you do a double space, it creates so much space, it can just look like there's rivers, which is an issue of flow, and you're kind of emphasizing what you don't want to emphasize. Okay, so we don't do a double space after. Actually, I take that back. We do that where I work, but it's controversial, and I think we're going to be moving away from it. And then the other thing is arts, theater, film. When you use a slash like that, and this may or may not be universal, but I think a standard that I've seen more often than not, and we use it at where I work, is to do a space before and after each slash. So arts, space, slash, space, theater, etc. Okay, I think that would just give words with a slash in between a little more breathing room, and it would just help with an overall flow. Okay. So sorry to interrupt here. I'll start over. Hello, my name is Alex Cirillo, and I'm a marketing student here at MATC. I work as a sales consultant for wine, spirits, and craft beer wholesaler. I have a wife, 5-year-old son, and 2 dogs, who I spend most of my free time with. We love to travel to different baseball parks and breweries, follow the Avett brothers, road bike, fish, and find things to fix up around the house. I consider myself a fairly awkward person, but I'm totally okay with it. I have never done anything with design in my adult life, so I'm excited to learn more than just the basics. I like my job, but I would love to find a career in marketing somewhere after school. All right, cool. And you included your wife in your picture, which is, that says something about yourself. You say, and you said it in the text as well. You spend most of your time with your wife. It's a very important relationship, and you underline that idea in the picture. So, even though it's very simple, I mean, the idea is what's most important. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to emphasize? And in this case, it's this relationship. You identify with being a married man, and a married man who travels, and you're kind of overlooking some mountains there, so obviously you're doing some traveling. And also you included some pictures of the Brewers and the Avett brothers and biking, which are 3 things you like to do as well. Probably the same comment. You have 2 main graphics here. You got to figure out a way to unify them more. Okay, in this case, what I would probably have done is imagine those 3 sub-graphics with the same height on each one, butted right up against each other. So it's like one big white box, okay, with the 3 symbols inside. Group it and then make the whole thing smaller so that it extends to the left and the right of the picture, so that it's, or as close as you can, so that it's maybe in the sky area of where the picture is. And that way you're associating those images with the picture graphic more directly. And if you did that, you would be opening up space as well, where you can make that overall picture with the 3 sub pictures in the sky area even bigger to make that seem even more important, because we really like visual images more than we like text. So you want to really lead with your strong visual graphic more than anything. It draws viewers in, it gets attention, it creates attention. Another problem I have is the background is a very busy sort of marble countertop, and it's a cool background, and I like the color, but it's very hard to read text over the top of that, especially printed. If you printed this, it would be almost impossible to read, I would bet. As a rule of thumb, what we recommend for a case like that is you make a transparency on a background like that where it's lighter, much lighter. Or one thing you can do if you want to keep that as it is, you would make a box, just a simple shape, and you would make it white. You would put it just behind the body copy. You'd make the body copy a color, probably repeating a dark blue in this case, and then you would do a transparency on the white box. You could give it like feathered edges. It's a device that's very often used in design, where the text is much more easy to read over that transparent white box, but because it's transparent, you can see through the background. In this case, I would recommend doing something like that. Great job on having no returns. Same comment about the 2 spaces. It's okay to do that, but just be aware. And consistency is really important. Like I see it kind of looks like you've got, well, no, I take that back. It looks like you're consistent with the 2 spaces, but be aware that's not really necessary anymore. I think the outline on the word marketing is too thick. You can see how it cuts into the actual lettering itself, where some of the white lettering itself kind of disappears. That doesn't look professional. It's an issue of flow. Okay. And I think even on your Alex Cirillo headline, I like that you did a little bit of a glow possibly, or if you didn't, I like the white outline, but I think it could be a little thinner. Less is more. So I think those are really my only comments. It looks like you have a nice job sort of centering headline and subheader over the top of those 3 pictures, although the pictures themselves aren't aligned very well. Alignment, like you didn't really center align the 3 pictures, or bottom align them or top align them. There's no logic to it, and they're spaced out not evenly. There's more space between the Avett brothers picture and the bike, for example, than there is the Avett brothers picture and the Milwaukee Brewers icon. Okay, if you're going to use those white backgrounds like that as boxes, to contain whatever it is they're containing, and then space them out in a row like that, they should be aligned logically, centered, where the top or bottom or middle are centered, and they should be spaced evenly across from each other. Okay. All right, Bridget Harms, marketing. My name is Bridget and I'm a marketing student at Madison College. This marketing design class is the first class I've taken for design, but I am familiar with design from my own personal experience. I have always been interested in design of all types, interior, graphic, and fashion. I have a love for art and I'm considered quite creative by most people who know me. Other than my creative qualities, I'm a very happy person. I simply just enjoy life and everything about it. Traveling is my passion and I hope to someday pursue, and I strive to live life to the fullest with my loved ones by my side. Alright, awesome. Now my first impression about this one is it's really beautiful to look at. And I think a lot of it has to do with the nature of the photograph that you used. How you're embedded in this green and yellow field of wildflowers, and that all we can see of your torso for the most part is the pink of your shoulders that really stands out among that background, and you repeated that pink in the headline and the background gradient. So that was really nicely done. It evokes a lot of things. It invokes sense of smell and sound and summer and all kinds of associations, so it was a really good picture choice, beautifully done. I think I would have liked to see the body copy text be not white. I think it's too close in value, in other words lightness and darkness, to the color that's behind it. It's going to be hard, makes it a little hard to read, and it's a little de-emphasized. I would want to see the text maybe like a green color, and you would be then repeating the background in the photo image into the body copy, which is a way of saying, even one more level, that this picture is related to what I'm talking about, which is myself. Okay, so that's repetition. And you could have repeated that green in the marketing text, and then left the headline, which is your name, the pink, which is also repeating. Okay, that's what I would have done. But it's cool how you aligned the text on the bottom, or actually left side, and then tilted it, and you align those two lines of text with the bottom of the photo. So very nice use of alignment, and all the way around it's aligned very smartly, very logically. And you've also aligned the body copy in you made it a big nice square block, and you've aligned it to the left of the headline. If you're new to design and you feel insecure about it, just basics like that, like just aligning everything logically like that, can make it look very professional, and make it look like you're a professional, even though you feel that you may not be. Okay, and a good job like spacing between Bridget and the marketing and the photo and then the body copy. It looks like you've made little even margins between the elements, and I think that's really cool. Probably would have made everything a little bit bigger, a little bit. I'm not sure if you need so much margin on the bottom, left and right, but it's a minor criticism. It's probably just fine, so but very evocative. I like the background gradient, especially because it almost reminds me of like an ethereal, sort of mysterious, hazy nature to it, and because you've kind of got that look on your face, where you're kind of deep in thought. I think, I'm not sure if that was your intention, but I think, it also relates to kind of that feeling, which I think is really cool. All right, Heather Bulk, Motorhead, Huntress, Determined. So, you can tell you've got a marketing sense in your design already, I mean, this is only the first design we've done, but it's cool that you have those subheads like that. I mean, that there's 3 of them, and it's not just your, a title in terms of, graphic designer or marketing major, etc. You did like, you cut to the chase even more. You want to cut underneath the surface even more to get to something which says something about your personality and your kind of and the way you're ambitious. So I really thought that was clever. I'm 24 years old, and in the marketing program at MATC. I don't have much experience with design other than making my own business cards, and have other random business things. I'm excited to learn more because my goal is to get a position with my own company in their advertising department. I'm a bow hunter and a motorcycle rider. I love learning about anything that contains a motor and goes fast. I consider myself very outgoing. My hobbies reflect that. I love to make people laugh, and I have a good time with whatever we're doing. At home, it's just me and my cat, Moper. She's very sassy, just like her mother. I'm adding a golden retriever puppy to my little family in spring. His name will be Arrow. My favorite color is gray. It goes along with my simple life. Alright, nice. I guess I have a few things to say about this one. Just the text, first of all. Be aware of spelling. I'm not going to take points off that for the assignments, for spelling, but you have one extra I. And that's probably the only spelling error I saw. Good job with no hyphens. And very nice job with the text wrap. I didn't require one in this assignment, but you did a nice job there. I like how it wraps around that image of the bow and arrow. And if it is purple, if that's something that's important about you, I would emphasize it more in the picture and in the headline as well. Okay. Same comment about the subhead. I think the outline is too thick. I'm not even sure if you need an outline, honestly. I would have just made that gray, probably. I think the font choice, and I know this is only your first assignment, but I'm going to be just honest as I see it, probably doesn't fit what you've described enough. That serif, it's a kind of a conservative, old-fashioned looking typeface, and what you've described, I think, is something a little more playful, a little more hard-edged, motorcycles, bow hunting. Okay. So it's great that you did a text wrap around the icon of the bow and arrow, and that's really important for you because you love bow hunting, and so you wanted to emphasize that was really important. And I just love that the text, which the body copy text, which is about you, wraps around a symbol which is about you. It just kind of reinforces the idea of who you are. And generally speaking, I love the idea of a strong one color with all else gray. Although in this case, it seems to lack enough unity. Like, it doesn't tie the symbol, the picture of you, and your headline together enough. I mean, there's a lot of gray, which is important because you like gray, but then you're emphasizing purple, so it's a little confusing there. I mean, do you like purple more than gray or gray more than purple? What I would do, and it doesn't really matter because you got tons of gray, you can leave the picture grayscale and everything else gray, but I would make the name a purple gradient instead of the gray gradient, and I would put just an outline over the picture. Maybe a pretty thick purple line, and that way you've got sort of a triangle of purple, which is unifying three incredibly important elements. It's using repetition. It's also emphasizing what you want to emphasize. Symbol, picture, your name. Those three things are incredibly important. You love bow hunting. This is the picture of you, and this is your name. So not only does it just give you clues on what's related, but also it just unifies the design from top to bottom, left to right. It balances it a little bit better. Okay, nice job though. This is really cool. I also would have chose a font that maybe relates more to that graphic of the bow and arrow a little bit more. More curvy, more thin and very thick shapes. And it's thin and thick, I understand now, but in a way that just resembles visually more the bow and arrow. Okay. All right, Karina Johnson, marketing. My name is Karina Johnson Andrews. I got married in May, and we're expecting another baby boy this coming May. I have been attending MATC for just over a year, and I'm studying marketing. I work at a bank, and I hope to someday work in the marketing or finance department. I don't have a whole lot of experience with design, so I'm excited to learn more in this class. I'm from Colorado originally. My hobbies include snowboarding, knitting, and I'm a bit of a bookworm. My favorite things in life include my husband, my 4-year-old, and the new baby, smiles, wine, traveling, kayaking, hiking, hugs, and coffee. I look forward to all the new learning experiences that are coming my way. Okay, very cool. I look forward to all the new learning experiences. People, don't forget to proof your own work. And I'm sure that was just a mistake, but remember, if lieu of anybody actually doing a proof, you got to look it over, print it, and read it, I always recommend a hard copy when you're proofing something, because it's just, I think it's easier to miss stuff when you're reading on the screen. And I can tell too, based on your rough, that you stayed pretty true to your original rough drawing. But it's a problem with flow. Okay, readability is hard. Did you hear when I started reading, I said, my name is Karina, and then I paused because my eyes weren't sure where to go. Immediately I wanted to go to married instead of jumping across the photo to Johnson Andrews. So, anytime you're breaking up the text like that, you have to do it in a way which doesn't interfere with flow so much. Okay, I think in this case what I would have done is, you've got a lot of room on the top. I would have brought your name all the way up to the top margin. I would have brought the text all the way down to the bottom margin and spread it out so that it's filling the margins even more. And that would have left you room to make the picture a lot bigger. I would have blown up the picture, so that the text isn't starting so high up into the picture, so that maybe the text starts way more towards the bottom third. And then also, if you're going to wrap text around a picture like that, you need to create margins around the picture to give space where your eye easily flows across the picture in a much more easy way. Okay, it just makes it hard to read. And I'm not sure how you did this exactly, but you see how there's a where is it here? Oh, I see. You did a okay, so you did in the word experience. You see how there's a hyphen there? There's a way that you can tell publisher to not hyphenate text like that. It defaults to hyphenate text, but you can check a box, and I have a video like that up already, where you can tell it not to hyphenate, and I think that looks more professional. The text alignment scheme you use is a justified text, which is smart because you're repeating the box. What justified text does is just make everything look like a big box square. But it also creates rivers. Usually if it's just a short paragraph, I wouldn't recommend a justified text, because, like, for example, in between the word my and hobbies and include and snowboarding, you see there's a lot of space. That's because it's just trying to fill out the space, flush left, flush right, and that can interfere with flow or readability very much so as well. Okay. Don't forget to include color in text, especially if there's just a short amount of text. I mean, if it's not like a long, magazine spread, or a 2-page or 3-page. I mean, in other words, in a lot of publications, black is a default for body copy. But if it's a short little design, remember, there's a million other ways to do body copy other than black. And I think it's just we've been programmed to kind of think text has to be black body copy, but it doesn't. So repeat colors that are going on in the main graphic into the body copy as well. Maybe a dark blue, for example. It looks like the picture is overlapping over the word marketing, so part of the marketing, the G is getting cut off, or more likely than not, the text box around the word marketing is too thin, and so you have to pull the text box out so the entire word is showing. Okay, and that's easy to do, and I understand that happened, but make sure you just have an eye for that from now on. Okay. Again, I probably would have repeated a color that's going on in the photo into your name instead of the red. I don't see any red in the photo at all. So just repeating the main header color, or the main photo or graphic color into the main headline does even more to reinforce that they're connected. Okay. All right, Sarah Kessler, full-time student and barista. Hello, my name is Sarah Kessler, and I'm a full-time marketing student with a bachelor's degree in communication technologies. I work full-time as a barista at Starbucks and nanny for a few wonderful children. I love to read, watch all sorts of television shows and movies with my fiance, and of course spend time with my family and friends. I am only mildly in love with all things Harry Potter and Disney, which keeps my inner child in check. My experience with design is limited, as only having worked with InDesign and having a brief introduction to Photoshop, but I'm really looking forward to learning more about how to use these very useful tools. Well, yeah, if you've done anything in InDesign or Photoshop, that's awesome, because those are design standard programs. I'd like that you chose to do this vertically instead of horizontally, and that's cool. You want to do something different. And I love the background graphic that you chose. It was probably just a background, like a template in Publisher. And you also did a a reflection of your name with rounded, or excuse me, of the photo. You did a reflection with the round corners effect, which I like a lot. It's a good picture and nicely treated as far as that goes. I think there's too much space in the lower left. You see, you could have I would have dragged the picture from the upper left corner and make it a lot bigger. And then you could have you did a text wrap, which is smart and very, very professional. But, I would wanted to see that more inside one of the paragraphs, so that there's not just one line that goes all the way to the left and right. I would have wanted to see either, maybe at least 2 or 3 lines that go all the way to the left to the right, or just did it so that, I don't know, it just looks like you could have thought through how you're going to do their text wrap a little bit more, so that the text itself fills all the way from the top to the bottom margin. Okay, maybe grab a color that's in the photo to repeat in probably all your text. Remember, text doesn't have to be black. And think about font, especially in your headline. If barista is something that's really important to you, or if it's just something that is who you are right now, what you're doing, you've already emphasized it in the subhead. Maybe do a free font search for barista or coffee font or something like that, just to make the headline look a little bit more like, at least what right now you're doing. I know that you probably don't define yourself that way, but the idea is to define yourself in a main headline by using a font that actually resembles that somewhat. Okay, and then again, repeat colors that are going on in the photo. We'll move forward and work a lot more with Photoshop. And I think one thing I would recommend in this case, you could have lightened the photo a lot more. It looks like you're in shade and your picture's way too dark of you. You can see there's really light areas where the sun appears to be in the background, but there's ways you can correct for that. It's best to start with a good photograph too that wouldn't be hypothetically in shade like that. It's a good photo of yourself. You have a nice smile, and it's like you seem like you're just happy hanging out outside, but it's a bad photo in the sense that you're all in shade like that. It's hard to see. And there's things we can do in Photoshop to correct for that. Okay, Jared Mock, greatest dad ever. A father to 2 amazing kids. I am the best dad ever. The votes are in and it's unanimous. I have a shirt saying it, also a coffee cup. I love to play with the kids and help them learn and grow. I was born in Texas and once was a kid myself. I love to make people laugh and do stand-up comedy for a living. It's fun and helps me. My kids are named Alexandria and Maximus. I love them with all my heart. They tell me every day I'm the biggest and best dad. I use being the biggest and best dad to gain influence in the community and to receive discounts at local eateries. Nice sort of clever idea that you made the central theme of the piece. Greatest dad ever. That's awesome. And it's also funny too that you mentioned you got the coffee cup in the shirt. It's kind of a classic way for kids to express their love by giving gifts like that. And that also underlines or repeats the idea of who you are, father, which is something that's really important to you and your children. And I think that's great. Visually speaking, I think there's a couple of problems. I think the margin on the top and bottom are too big. I would have made them even all the way around, and less margin probably. I would have wanted to see more room to make the headline and subhead bigger. So you could have probably made the headline stretch all the way to the right margin, and you could have probably made the subhead, stretch all the way over as well. Okay, and maybe made them a little bit closer together. It would have given you a lot more room to do that. You wouldn't have had to put them so far apart to fill that space if you made them bigger like that. Okay, you could have probably made the photo a little bit bigger too, because you got room to make the body copy text lowered. You've got there's automatic hyphens and the body copy text. There's a way to get rid of that. I think I have a video that shows that. Nice job repeating the blue color in the photo into the text of your headline and subhead. I probably would have repeated maybe a darker version of the blue into the body copy as well. Remember, you don't need to use black. Okay, and you did a simple gradient, and I like that the inside of the gradient is light and the text is really dark, so that makes the text easy to read. Okay, and that's a flow issue. I probably would have made well, if you're going to make the text a dark blue, I probably, instead of making a black gradient in the background, I would have introduced a light blue to it. Instead of the black, I've done a blue and a little bit lighter, and that would have repeated the blue color throughout and unified the design, okay, from your headline to your main graphic, all the way into the background, okay. Bill Mazer, semi-professional storyteller. Everyone loves a great story. As a UW grad from years back when the Badgers stunk and a career copywriter, I've been telling stories for lots of ad agencies in Madison, the Midwest, and now Northern California, where I live in Sacramento. All these years, I have been able to get by with zero design skills, despite being a visual thinker anyway. Now, as the need to not just write but understand and create even the most basic digital design looms large, here I am, needing to start from the beginning, 30 years later. It should be loads of fun. All right, very cool story. Yeah, I mean, copywriting is a really special skill. It's hard. It's hard to whittle down text into such small essentials, little chunks like that. But as you get better at design, being a copywriter, those two things go together extremely well. Obviously, like the picture of yourself, it shows a lot of personality. Love that everything's very professionally centered and the hierarchy emphasis is very clear. Picture, headline, subhead, body copy. Probably could have made the semi-professional storyteller text bigger. You've got a lot of space around everything. I would have made everything closer to margins. I would have utilized the margins better. You can see them because of the way I had to do a screenshot. You can see the margin, the blue all the way around. I would have stretched out the body copy to line up with the margins and made the headline and subhead a lot bigger. And you could probably even made the photo bigger, or at least maybe cropped in closer to your face. Because you don't really need that background as much. Crop the picture so that your face is close to the edges, and then made all that a lot bigger. Those are a couple things I would recommend. Maybe introducing color from the photo into the headline. Probably a green color, a dark green, which you've already repeated into the background gradient. This might have been a case where you could have done a justified body copy alignment scheme, instead of the flush left like that, because everything is so logically centered, and also the gradient in the background. It probably would have been cool. Or maybe actually, I take that back. I probably should have done a centered body copy alignment, and then that would have been repeated the idea of centered all the way through. Okay, and there's not so much text where you can't do a centered alignment. It would have looked fine. So other than that, like simple, but he did the job. Okay, Shayna Mickelson. Okay, Shayna Mickelson. My name is Shayna Mickelson. I am a marketing student at MATC. I am a full-time hairstylist and absolutely love what I do. I was looking for a new challenge, which inspired me to go to school. I took a graphic design class teaching the basics about Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, and it scared me. I am liking the approach of our instructor for this class. Oh, well, thank you. I am excited to learn Publisher and more on Photoshop. My favorite things in life are family, my pets, my fiance, and of course our unborn baby. I am expecting mother and very. Well, congratulations. That's very cool. Obviously, the text got cut off. I think that's because your text box is bigger than, it's too small where all the text doesn't fit inside. So you'd have had to either dragged the text box bigger or made the font size smaller. Basically, I love the overall composition. I think it's really smart. You could have shifted everything more to the left and the right though, and probably utilize the margins on the top and the bottom a little bit more. You could have kept that overall look because the balance is perfect, but I think you do have enough room where you can tighten the margins a little bit, bring everything out closer to the four corners, and that would have given you more room to include all the text, which I'm really curious to read, but it got cut off, so I can't. So you've got like 3 boxes, which are, 2 of them are left aligned and the other one, is sort of shifted to the right like that, and you've repeated an outline which is that dark pink, and then in 2 of the boxes, headline and subhead, you've repeated like a light color on the inside of the box, which is the pink as well. You probably could have repeated that pink inside the body copy box. I'm not sure. You may or may not have tried that. And I think it looks kind of cool the way it is now. But I'm a big fan of using color to its full impact. But maybe it's fine without it. But actually, I don't have a lot of criticism of this one. I think the main thing is just obviously make more room for all the body copy text to fit inside there. You've got automatic hyphens on the body copy, which there's a simple way you can get rid of that. I think it's in a video, and I'm going to also, in this week, on week 4 announcements, I'm going to show you a screen capture of how you do that as well, so everybody can know. Overall, it's just a really clever use of that blue-gray color in combination with that beautiful pink color. And it's a really striking balance of dark and light, probably a little bit more balanced light on the light side than dark, and I don't think we've even touched on balance yet, but we will. The idea of hairdresser seems important because that's your current full-time job, which it says a lot about yourself, and it's got that look, or at least it's got that feel of a hairdresser. With the font you chose for the headline, very curvilinear and stylized, like hair might be, and very often that pink color would be associated with a hair salon, and also the idea of mirrors. So it just, for some reason, it just evokes, I think, what you do in a very positive way, and I think that's really cool. So nice job. All right, Nicholas Palin, outdoor enthusiast. Hello, everyone. I graduated from Partysville High School in 2013 and have been at MATC ever since. This is my last semester before I graduate with a marketing degree. When not working or attending school, I enjoy working at a horse stable, hunting, fishing, trapping, snowmobiling, golfing, and pretty much any activity outdoors. I hope to pursue a career in agriculture and seed crop sales. All right, nice. Nice repetition of green. He brought that in from the from the photo. And there's green in the background trees, also in the vehicle you're leaning against, which is probably a farming equipment of some sort, I'm assuming. And it's a nice drop of repetition there. I probably would have, I don't think you had to repeat it if you're going to leave the text where it is overlapping over the photo like that. And I think that's a good idea because you're combining the headline and subhead into the picture. You're marrying those together in a way which is really nice. But because the outdoor enthusiast text is so almost right in front of the dark green background, it's a little bit hard to read. So I think you could have made that maybe like a white or like a light color that's going on maybe in like your forehead or their skin color, or even the field color, like something a lot more light, more contrast. Okay, and I think that would have added a little more unity and contrast and made the outdoor enthusiast not only more easy to read, but it would have given it more emphasis, because that's really what is most important about you. And that picture of you outdoors, looking very enthusiastic, it would have just kind of connected the two even a little bit more, and your name would still be very prominent and green, which also relates to the trees because it's so big. Okay, I'm not sure if you need an outline on the Nicholas Palin text, and it's so thin the way it is, it really doesn't do much. So I would have either taken that off or made it a little bit thicker, or maybe just try an effect like a glow, a really modest outer glow maybe, or something like that. I think the text doesn't have to be that big. You don't have a lot of text, and make it smaller to make more room, or drag it left to right. Create margins more on the left and right, because now you've got so much room. I think it seems off balance. It's just giant left and right margins, and it's really tight on the top and bottom. And the bottom especially, it's like way too tight. So you could have dragged the text box for the body copy to like a really much tighter left and right margin to equal what you have on top, and then pulled it up so that the bottom margin is the same. Okay, and that would have given you a lot more room between the body copy and made the photo graphic. And that's an issue of flow and emphasis. You don't want to emphasize what you don't want to emphasize. And then maybe even you could have made the picture smaller, giving you more room to make Nicholas Palin a lot bigger. Somehow you need to think about balance, where you don't want all these empty spaces. And I realize you have a background image, like sort of a weird background image with shapes and different colors, but it's kind of flat. It doesn't really say much. It's just it reads like white space. Okay, so I think you want to just think about balance in terms of your relationship, and not having all this open space that really doesn't have a purpose. If there's not a reason to do something, don't do it. Okay. Aaron Shower. Aaron Shower. Currently marketing major. Work part-time at Culver's and Marco's Pizza. I really don't have any design experience. I honestly am not very artistic. My favorite things in life are playing and watching sports and being around people that I care about. I'm a very outgoing person once you get to know me, and I enjoy playing baseball and basketball. Alright, great. It's okay that you don't have any design experience, especially for people who feel that they're not artistic, like you say you're not. It's really important to just stick to basics, such as flushing everything against margins. If you can do stuff like that, that can go a long way to kind of make up for that. It looks like you've got a little bit tighter margin on the top and a little bit tighter margin even yet on the left, and than you do on the bottom. Okay, so just make sure those are all even, and that's something that you can do regardless of artistic experience. Use your margin guides. The subhead is a sentence with a period. I would have made that just words. If you're marketing, you got to think about terms of chunks of word chunks, like a copywriter would. So marketing major, part-time Culver's, part-time Marco's Pizza. You know what I mean? Just chunk it and make those just 3 text blocks without a period. Okay. It's not a bad composition. I like that. The overall background image of yourself bleeds all the way around, and then you did that circular text effect on your name. Other than the Packers hat, though, there's not a lot of clues that you really like baseball and basketball, and I guess that's okay, because you did say it in the text. I have a problem with the yellow. I guess you're repeating I take it back. I guess you're repeating the Packer colors, but I guess I don't like that it's in the body copy and not in the headline. If you really want to say something initially about Packer fan, because the only thing that you would be repeating if you're drawing something from the photo would be that color of the top of the Packer hat, the Packer yellow. So if you're going to repeat that, I would repeat it in the headline. So make Aaron Shower yellow instead of blue, and then instead of having a yellow for the body copy like that, I would have maybe picked like a color that's repeated in your face, like a light pink color or something like that, just to add more interest. The yellow, it just looks like closed captioning or something, and there's not enough of it going on in the picture where it's necessary to repeat it in the body copy. And you got a problem with emphasis. The font size, it looks like, for the body copy is exactly the same as it is for the subhead. So remember your hierarchy of emphasis. Headline, subhead, body copy, in that order. So you have plenty of room to make the body copy font a lot smaller. And there's plenty of room, because you've got so much open space on the left side there, especially in the upper right, with the background being so flat like that. So maybe make that a smaller font size. And instead of that yellow, I would have made the yellow the headline, and then maybe subhead and the body copy, either a white or like something that you're repeating that's really light in the photo, like a color in your face, like a light, you know, um, I guess if you look carefully, and there's lots of different colors in your face, maybe a light purple, very light purple. You can use the eyedropper fill color tool in Publisher to do that, where you're just selecting colors in your face. And then by doing that, you're repeating the Packer thing in your headline, which overlaps the photo of you, which relates to the cap you're wearing, which is of the Packers. It's just a subtle way of saying, I'm a sports fan, okay? But, nice job for a very first assignment without hardly any instruction. Good job. All right, I think this is the last one. Kimberly Susky. I have a Shih Tzu named Gizmo. He is my best friend and trusty sidekick. I've lived in Madison, Wisconsin since 1998, and I'm a student and full-time worker. During the summer months, I am going to farmers markets, concerts, gardening, and swimming. At night, I love to go out dancing. Someday after graduating, I plan to have a career in marketing. Cool. I think, if I'm looking at this correctly, you cut out the photo of yourself using Photoshop. So fantastic. I haven't even shown you how to do that yet, and you're already trying to do a transparent background so that you can have a background behind. And I think that's ambitious, and we're going to show you that, and you're going to be able to do a lot more of that even starting this week, I believe. But you can see how it looks really unprofessional. You can see like these ragged edges around, and it cuts off at the top of the head like that. You never want that to be like that. You want to do, if you're using a picture that does bleed from the top like that, then you want to make sure that bleeds off the edge somehow, or off the edge of a box somehow. Okay, just keep that in mind. It's a nice picture of yourself, but I'll get you so that you'll be a lot more professional in being able to remove a background from a portrait. And that's a very, very common thing to do with Photoshop. Probably the thing you'll do most often than not in Photoshop in the real world. It's a good hierarchy of text of size, and it reads very clearly over that light background. But I probably would have repeated, I wouldn't have made everything black like that. I would have repeated the dark blue colors and purples that are going on in the picture of you, like the color of your eyes maybe, which are big and very blue. I would have made your name probably that color. And I probably would have, the text box with the body copy text box, I would have made it a lot thinner so that it's not so close to your face. You could have given a lot more margin to the right side of your face so that you can fill in the space in the lower right there. You could have just done that by making the text box smaller. And then maybe you could have made the text size of the body copy a little bit smaller too. It probably doesn't need to be that big, and that would have given you room maybe to make your name a lot bigger. Another thing you could have done is made the font size of the body copy a lot smaller, made it go lower towards marketing student, and then by making your name bigger, you could have made it move towards the top of your head more, so that's even like sitting on the top of your head. And then with a dark blue or purple color, that would be even more reinforcing headline and main graphic. Okay. Last but definitely not least, Tamara Pikawek. Love that font, by the way. Very, very illustrative, very playful, very evocative, and the curvilinear aspect relates to that oval that you put your picture inside of. I'm a 38-year-old marketing student that currently works in the insurance industry. I love spending time with my husband and traveling. I am passionate about welfare of animals and hope to someday be a crazy cat lady. I am halfway through my associate's degree in marketing, and I am really excited to finish, as I would like to continue and study for my bachelor's degree. I'm a little nervous about this class as I am not the most artistically gifted person. Excellent. I love helping you non-artistically gifted people. Remember your basics and margins. Right now there's a bigger margin on the bottom than there is on the left and right, it looks like, and the same, you get the left, right, top, the same margin and more on the bottom. Now you can do that, and that's okay, but err on the side of making them all the same maybe until you have a little more experience. But good job having the margins for the most part really even. They don't need to be so big though. For the margins are all different sizes, but for the rule of thumb, I would say make them less than a ½ inch, maybe a ¼ inch or 3/4, 0.3. Just utilize the space a little bit more. I think in this case you could have made the headline a lot bigger, and you could have made the body copy a little bigger too. Might be a little easier to read at this viewing distance anyways. But great use of headline font, a good hierarchy of emphasis. You get your headline name and marketing student is secondary in emphasis, and body copy is third. And I like that you repeated the light sort of highlight color in your skin. It almost like that highlight is repeated in the outline and the font color of the body copy. And kind of a neat background graphic. That's cool. And you also have like a box, or the text box itself. It appears to be behind the body copy, which has like a simple gradient too, which I think helps make the text more easy to read, and that's very cool. You've got so much purple going on though. Instead of doing a white outline on the headline and subhead, and because especially on the subhead, because it's so thick, it makes the text a little bit hard to read, I might have made the headline and subhead just plain white, and then you would have repeated that white outline of the oval even more into the text and subhead that way. And I think it would have just it added more light to the balance. Okay, I think it really would have unified those three elements visually and thematically even more. Okay, nice job pasting in the text into that oval box. Now for a first assignment, this is great. Like you're going to get a lot better. So I think this is the last one. So yes, so overall, great job everybody, and I'll do a lot more of these critique videos coming up.